Good morning, I'm Cassie at Afternoon Literature and this is my July wrap up. So I'm hoping to do my wrap ups in a similar way to how Emma from Drinkingbymyshelf does them. I will leave a link down below to her Balancing the Book series, which I absolutely adore. If you haven't seen Emma's series, I suggest that you watch it, but I will give a brief explanation here. So Emma originally started with quite a big substantial TBR, and she decided that she had to learn how to balance the books, or more precisely to decrease that TBR. And so it was Emma's goal to make sure that every month the books that she purchased were less than the books that she had actually read, and that her TBR was decreasing each month. She's now managed to get that TBR number down to quite a low number. At the moment she seems to be stuck on 43, but I consider that an absolute goal. So she has stopped adding a forfeit or anything to her balancing the books, but I will not, and that is because when I started the month of July, my physical TBR that I can have also around me and can find, which you can see generally around me right now, was 280 books. So I have to have a forfeit. I need to decrease this number. That isn't because I mind owning that many books. I absolutely love having my books around me. It's just I don't like the fact that that many are unread, especially when there's new books always coming out that I'm always interested in. So here are the rules of the game almost. Each month I will aim to read as many books as possible, but at least 5 books. The aim of the challenge is to get 5 books lower every single month on my TBR. Now at the moment I've done quite a lot of unhauls over the last couple of years, and so the books that I own are books that I want to read, so I don't want to just unhaul books if I don't achieve that. So I have created my second chance shelves. On the second chance shelves are all the books that for some reason I am less interested in than the ones that are currently on my shelves. When I purchased them I will have been interested in them, I will have wanted to read them, but over the years something has happened that has changed that interest. There's going to be a separate video on my second chance books, so I'm not going to go into that in detail here, but you know, there's a variety of reasons why you might technically still want to read the book but you're not picking it up over other ones. So at the end of every wrap up, if I don't achieve 5 less on my TBR, I will draw out a number of books from the second chance shelf. That number of books will correspond to however many I need to read, and then the challenge is that the next month I must read them, and if in the next month by the end of it I haven't read them, then I can unhaul it because it was genuinely a book I just didn't want to get to, or I will have read it and enjoyed it, or I will have read it and DNF'd it and therefore it will have gone off my TBR numbers anyway. So that will be the additional challenge, the forfeit element to my wrap-ups. In the month of July I did manage quite a reasonable reading month, and I'm very glad of that because I'm currently on summer holidays, so I needed that. I don't anticipate that I will read this much any other month, but I'm quite happy with what I've done. So the way I'm going to do this is you'll see the number of my current TBR appearing on screen now, so it should appear here if I have done my editing job correctly, and then I will start by telling you the books that I did purchase this month and we'll add them on to my TBR. So I'm currently at 280, but I purchased Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I bought this book with the intention of reading it straight away. I've been really interested in reading more horror. I've just been in a mood for it, even though it's hot and quite clammy and stuff like that. I think maybe the closeness gives me more of an atmospheric horror vibe than necessarily the cold winters do. So I'm looking forward to actually getting to and reading this book in August. However, for this month it has to count because I haven't read it yet, so I will be adding a number to that score. because I bought Pet Sematary in Tesco's, it was 2 books for £8, so I also purchased Circe. Everyone has been talking about this book. It's a Greek myth retelling of the first witch. It's not as long as I thought it was going to be, so I don't know when I'm going to get to this, but I am excited about getting to it over the next few months, but I do need to read that soon. And also, because of Emma by Drinkingbymyshelf, I also purchased A Nearly Normal Family. Now, in my defence, this is a whopping, great, big, beautiful hardback, and it was only £5 in Tesco's, so it had to be purchased. I didn't intend to, but you know, it just slipped into my basket and then into my till and then into my home. So A Nearly Normal Family is a thriller about 3 members of the same family, and I think the same story is told 3 times but from these 3 different perspectives. And the idea is that what if you were told that your daughter had done something? Would you believe her, or would you believe the evidence? So it's a really interesting idea, and when I'm back at school, thrillers are wonderful reads because they're quite fast and enjoyable and they don't take as much thinking for me, so I'm looking forward to reading that. So there are all the books that I purchased this month. Now, I looked at all my books, and while I was getting my second chance shelf ready, I realised that there's a number of books that I'm just never going to read. Sometimes you hold on to books for a variety of reasons. For me, one of those reasons is that I want to read them. I want to get to them and enjoy them because I wouldn't have got them otherwise unless there was a reason for it. But there's just some books that it's never going to be the case with. So I've got a few books here that I'm definitely going to unhaul no matter what. So the first one is The Divine Comedy by Dante. I got this, I think, when I was on my university degree. Also for writing, I thought it would be a great thing to reference, and I thought it would be wonderful to read, but I just really struggle with verse and really struggle with poetry, and there's just no way I'm ever going to sit down and read this book, and I'm not even going to reference it. I'm just not, so that can go. In a similar vein, there is Paradise Lost by John Milton. Yeah, no more explanation needed for this. And The Iliad by Homer. These are just books that I'm not going to get to ever. I also have Beowulf by Seamus Heaney, which is a retelling of the original Beowulf tale, and Andrew Motion's selected poems, and I'm really gutted about that because it's actually signed. I went to hear Andrew Motion speak a few years back, and he was wonderful. He was a lovely man. He answered questions and was very kind, but I don't read poetry. I really struggle with poetry, never got into it or massively enjoyed it, so it's just not for me. Right. Try not to burn myself here. Okay, I also have 2 books by Derren Brown. He is someone that I really enjoy watching. I find incredibly entertaining. I love seeing all... I don't often read biographies or anything like that, and I'm just not going to read them, so I'm going to donate them. The same with now Stuart Pawson. So these 2 books I got at The Works, which is it's not a bookshop, it's just like a cheap stationery type store where you can go in and you can get the odd book where you pick it up for like £1 or something like that. So these are just, I think, cozy mystery style detective books, but it's the 3rd and the 13th in a series. I'm not inclined to pick them up as recently. I've got a lot of thrillers and detectives anyway, so I'm not gonna read these ones, so they're going. And then Dance 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 by Haruki Murakami. So I have a very small selection of Asian literature. I really want to try and like Murakami, but I do struggle with magical realism, and I know that that is a lot of his focus. Dance Dance Dance, I've recently found out, is actually the 4th book in a mini-series, so I just don't think it's a Murakami that I need to start with, and I did get this second hand anyway. So I'm going to donate Dance Dance Dance, get that off my TBR, and get rid of that out of my house, but I do have some other Murakami books over there that I will be trying at some other point. So that is 2, 3, 4, 5. Clearly this is not planned. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have 10 books that I will be unhauling. So at the moment we should now be down to 273, and we're doing well this month. So now on to the books I actually read in the month of July. It was the book Junkie Trials, and I was definitely trying to get 17 books. I did not achieve 17 books, unfortunately, but at least I tried. I tried to make my way across, and I got enough books read that I'm happy with my results. One of those books was All the Crooked Saints by Maggie Stiefvater. This was actually a DNF. I got 112 pages into it and just couldn't follow it. I didn't understand what was happening. I didn't understand what was important about these characters. I had no love for the characters, and in fact found Beatrice really, really annoying. The writing was confusing. It kept flicking between timelines, and I don't usually mind that, but I didn't understand the rest of the plot. There was some elements there that I was hopeful for, because I feel like this talks about shame and guilt and fear, and so I wanted to like it, but I just couldn't get into it, couldn't enjoy it, and I don't think Maggie Stiefvater is for me. So that one is also going to be DNF'd and donated out of the house. I also read Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is my first Jay Kristoff novel, and it was also a science fiction novel, which I don't read much of, and I haven't read much of for a while. Now, if you don't know what Illuminae is about, I am going to tell you. It's about 2 young people who are on a planet that at the beginning of this novel, just after they've broken up, the planet is attacked, and it's their story as they are basically on the spaceship, technically being rescued, and something has clearly gone wrong. It's all told in mixed media format, and it is an absolute booktube darling. And they're right. I really enjoyed this. It was an incredibly fast read. It's very well paced. The writing style is clever. I loved the split between the 2 characters, especially in the interview format here, because it just seems to flow and link, so it's done very skillfully. There's characters in here that I absolutely love, one of whom's pages are mostly black, so if you've read the book you will know who that character is. Creepy as hell, by the way. There's a real good horror element to this that I wasn't expecting, and that I absolutely loved, and it's made me desperately want to pick up the next ones. This is a 4-star for me. And I think that's just because I found the teen romance to be a tiny bit young, but it is a young adult, so that would make sense. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to picking up the next ones. I'm not supposed to be starting series, but well, you know, I've got rid of this many books now, so I can read another one. Okay, I don't have a physical copy, but I read Nevernight on my Kindle, so having experienced Jay Kristoff's writing there, I decided that I was going to delve into Nevernight, and I read the ebook and read along with my Kindle for this, and yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised. For 20% of the book, I was like, it's not that the pacing's bad, there's constant action in this, but it takes a little while to really get into it. And for me, it wasn't until I got to the Assassin School that I really enjoyed it. Now, I'm not going to go into detail on my review on this, and that's because I intend to do a much more in-depth review of Nevernight. So for now, all I will say is that I gave Nevernight a 4-star, and again, it limited in getting that 5-star, mostly because I didn't enjoy that beginning. The rest of it I actually devoured in the space of a day, so the other 80% took about 1 day to read, and I would definitely suggest reading Nevernight. The downside to reading Nevernight on an audiobook and Kindle is that it's not on my physical TBR, and so it does not count for this total. Okay, I also read Other Words for Smoke by Sarah Marie Griffin. This was because I was going to a book signing on the 1st of August with Sarah Marie Griffin. You can see that we've signed this. Now Wayne really enjoyed this, and he gave this a 4-star. It's this whimsical, horrific, atmospheric tale about these witches and these generations of women in Ireland, but also about the home that they inhabit and creatures that feed off their emotions. There's definitely some fantastic elements in here, but there's also some choices that I just can't get behind. There's the use of the second person, and it's just not a choice that I absolutely love. I found that really difficult, and I feel like it could have been more atmospheric if more things were included and involved. But I do have to say is the representation in here for gay and bisexual characters I thought was really good, and I really like that. And there's also some dark history here in the use of the Magdalen laundries in Ireland, which was a horrific thing that happened, but it was incredibly interesting. It was really well put together within this novel. Unfortunately, because of some of those changes to the way that it was written and general aspects of the writing style, I only gave this a 3-star. For the same event, I also read The Devouring Grey by Christine Lynn Herman. The Devouring Grey is about a town where the Grey takes over, and there are founding families, and it is their job to keep the Grey, which clearly has some kind of monster in it, from attacking people in this town. So you can see that that one is signed as well. It's pitched as Stranger Things meets Riverdale. I have watched neither of those shows, so that means nothing to me, but I read it very much as The Vampire Diaries, the original Secret Circle style thing. I love The Vampire Diaries when I originally read them, but I read them when I was around 13 or 14, and I read them multiple times, but unfortunately this to me just read very young, and more old than I wanted it to, as in it reminded me of the same type of writing as Vampire Diaries, and Vampire Diaries came out in 1992, 1994, and I just think it could be updated and more modernised. The characters felt very one-dimensional, they felt very flat, apart from Harper. Now, I have to say there's a lot of representation in here. I can't speak to how good it is or not, but I do feel like there's almost a disproportionate amount of representation. And I did watch Rachel's review from, it was Rachel Marie Book Junkie, but I think it's now changing. So once I know her new channel name, I will link it down below. So I did watch that review, and she mentioned that some of the times Christine Lynn Herman has made a choice to say the white girl walked in or the white man and things like that, and that was a really odd decision because it changes the way you think about things, the way things are looking, but she does a much better review of that aspect of it than I can. For me, I think people might say that this is really positive because of the representation of bisexual people. However, what I found far more positive was the representation of disability in this. Harper is an amputee, and she's fantastic. She is by far the best character, the best well written in this novel, and the whole reason that if I do pick up the second novel that I will be desperate to read it, all only because of that one character in there. Ultimately, I did give this one a 3-star. Okay, so 2 more books that I did read but I don't have physically with me is Sarah Winman's Tin Man and Terry Pratchett's Dragons at the Crumbling Castle. So, Dragons at the Crumbling Castle was incredibly disappointing for me. I feel like this is because I didn't quite know what I was getting when I went into it. It was a children's novel, but I was expecting it to be a full novel, and it's not. It's a collection of short stories and mini vignettes that Terry Pratchett wrote when he was working at the newspapers. It was just very disappointing for me. It's not his writing, and I do feel like I really need to get into a Terry Pratchett book and sink my teeth into it, and so ultimately I only gave that a 2-star. As for Sarah Winman's Tin Man, I picked this up because Simon Savidge of Savidge Reads had recommended it, and I've also heard some other people talking about Sarah Winman, and At first I was really unsure, the writing style just didn't really appeal to me, but then I got into it and it's beautiful. It's a novel about two men and a woman and their love and their life and their friendship. I can't say much more about it. It's barely over 150 pages and it really made me cry. It's heartbreaking, it's lovely, it's beautiful. I gave that book a 4-star, yeah, fairly certain. So I gave that a 4-star as well. I also read My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. I really enjoyed this. It was fun and fast and a romp. If you can see, this is where all the chapters are because I made a playlist and I listened along to the 80s tunes as I was reading it. It reminded me very much of those old horror movies that I absolutely love, things like Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff like that. So I really did enjoy the experience of reading My Best Friend's Exorcism, and it is purely about that, by the way. It's about a girl whose best friend becomes possessed and it's her attempt to exorcise her. It's a fun and fast read and it's been talked about loads on BookTube, and if you haven't read it you should definitely pick it up. It's one I can definitely recommend. Again, I gave that a 4-star. Okay, another one that I'm very glad that I got to read this month is King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. This is technically like the 4th in the world of the Grisha trilogy. Now, the Grisha trilogy originally is about Alina Starkov. It's very Russian inspired and it's about her moving from one army that they have there, so the army where she is a cartographer, to the other army where she is the Grisha, because she discovers that she is a sun summoner and she has powers. That trilogy is really important to your idea and knowledge of this world, so I can't really say any more about it. But King of Scars sees the return of some characters from the original trilogy after a few years where we've had other novels take place in other parts of that world, and it also sees a return from some of the characters from those other novels, characters that I love. And so all I can say really about King of Scars is wow. Yeah, wow. I gave this a 5-star. I really enjoyed it. I don't want to say who they are, but the main male character is hilarious. He's fantastic and just as good as I was always expecting. So King of Scars is fantastic. His female partner in this is really good, much more likable in this, and then the other perspective that we got I really enjoyed. I thought it was heartbreaking but wonderful and quite a fitting note to add to that story. So yep, 5 stars from me. I have no idea where it's gone, but I also read Salt to the Sea by Rita Sepetys. I apologise, I can't say that name. But it was a brilliant. It's a telling of a real historical event that happened when Lithuanian refugees were trying to escape in the Second World War, and they got onto a ship and it was one of the worst maritime disasters that there ever was, and it was the sinking of the ship. And this follows some of these refugees as they try to make their way to the ship. So it's a mixture of Lithuanian refugees, Polish refugees, some German, and as they try and make their way to the ship and then their time on the ship leading up to the sinking. And it was so sad. It was genuinely sad and heartbreaking, and I'm really gutted that I actually don't understand more of this in general. I really wish I did. So yeah, it was well worth a read. It was a really good suggestion. I will be picking up more of her books. I gave that one also a 5-star. And then finally I finished Stalking Jack the Ripper by Kerry Maniscalco. This is a reread for me. The first time I read it I gave it 4 stars. I enjoyed it, but there were a couple of aspects that I felt were a bit repetitive, and I was like, I'm not so sure. On reading it the second time, I annotated it as I went, and I can honestly say I adored it. I think I liked it more the second time through, and the reason for that is even though I knew who the killer was, it was so much easier now, obviously, to pick up the clues, to see the little nuances, to really appreciate the craft that had gone into writing and plotting this novel. So I ended up giving this 5 stars on reread. Okay, so at this point now, we have added 3 books to the original 280. We've then unhauled 10 books, and I managed to read, and apologies, I'm going to have to do a quick count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now the reason it's only 8, and I've talked about more here, is purely because this number is just my physical TBR, and so I can't count any of the ebooks that I read, and I can't count any audiobooks that I listened to. And I also can't count the rereads because, you know, I've actually already read this, so I don't count these on the physical TBR of things that I need to read. So it's only 7 books that I'm taking off it this month, so it should have gone down now to 276. Can I math? I don't think I can math. 283, 273, 266, I think. If that number's not correct, I will change that in editing. So I think we're down to 266 books, which means that next month I need that number to be 261, or I will be picking some forfeits out of the second chance shelf. This has been a really long wrap up, and that's because there's been a bit of a haul, bit of an unhaul, bit of a wrap up, so I completely apologise for that. The next ones will definitely be shorter, but if you've stuck with me this long, thank you very much. If you have any thoughts or opinions on these books, if there's anything I'm unhauling that you're just like, don't do it, let me know, because I can move it on to my second chance shelf if that's the case. So please tell me down below in the comments, and if you like this video, remember to like it. If you want to see more, remember to subscribe, and I will speak to you soon. Thank you, bye.